Well, hello and welcome to another guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today we are going to be talking to somebody a little bit of a different topic than where we might normally venture in running your law firm, practicing law, but a really, really cool idea that Jazz just shared with me. Our guest is Jazz Hampton. He's the CEO and general counsel at Turn Signl. Turn Signl is a Minnesota-based tech company that provides real-time legal guidance from an attorney to drivers, all while their camera records the interaction. Before joining Turn Signl, Hampton was the director of diversity and inclusion and a practicing attorney at Foley and Mansfield, national law firm with 150 plus attorneys, as well as an adjunct professor at Mitchell Hamlin School of Law, an emerging leader within Twin Cities diversity and practice, and the co-chair of DRI's Young Lawyer Diversity Committee. Among all of this, he's a husband and father of 3 children, which is the most exciting part of his bio. We just covered in the green room. I love kids, and he is raising 3 of them. So really cool to be in the same room as Jazz and have him here on the podcast. But I'm excited to talk about Turn Signl, but I'm not going to try to explain it to you. I'm going to let him do that. Jazz, welcome to the show.
No, I appreciate it. And thanks for having me. And you're right. The kids are the most important part of the bio there. At least they take up most of the time, I like to say. So, so in October of 2020, I left my litigation practice and my work as a diversity, equity, inclusion director and law professor to start Turn Signl. George Floyd tragically lost his life just miles away from where I live. Prior to that, Philando Castile was just about 16 miles further than that. And actually, my 2 co-founders grew up with Philando Castile's family. And so they gave me a call and said, hey, we're thinking about starting a platform that connects drivers to an attorney on a video call when they're pulled over. And I jumped into lawyer/law professor mode. I was like, tell me about pass-through liability. When does attorney-client privilege start? And I just ran through over and over more things, and neither of them are lawyers. And by the end of it, they're like, Jazz, you have to join us. You have to be a part of this journey with us. And so I did. I left the law firm to start Turn Signl, and we're really grateful for the stretch and reach it has thus far. We're live in 47 states. We'll be in all 50 here in a matter of days. And we're receiving hundreds of calls a month. So it's exciting stuff.
So tell me, I get the concept because it's almost like we've seen enough movies and TV shows to see how this works. Or we've also seen the real stories. I mean, you mentioned George Floyd. And I'm curious to know how his interaction might have been different had he had a Turn Signl attorney on the phone. But from what I understand is, okay, I get pulled over by a police officer, and at that point, am I calling Turn Signl? And how are you ensuring that I have an attorney on immediately, and I'm not stuck talking to the officer without that attorney there?
Yeah, that's exactly what, when we thought of this, George Floyd was one of the first people we thought of. People don't know, and maybe they see the video and they think of when it started with him on the ground already, but this whole interaction started when he was in a car, actually. Same with Philando Castile, and so many more. And so what we started saying is actually, when I was in law school as a public defender, a certified student attorney, so I was representing people in their bail and arraignment hearings when I was in law school. And before I went out there with my client, I'd say, hey, listen, the judge is going to read the complaint. They're going to say that you were drunk on Main Street and threw a fire extinguisher through the window of that building. What I need you to do is not throw up your arms, not roll your eyes, to respond with your honor, and to be respectful. And I'm going to help us have the best outcome in this situation. And that's what we would do. And that's exactly what the attorneys on our platform are there to do for these drivers as well. Philando Castile was pulled over 49 times in 13 years. Surely some of these people are frustrated. Maybe they're unfamiliar with the process. And just like I wouldn't send anyone into court without an attorney, I wouldn't want them to start the legal proceeding, which can be those traffic stops, without one as well. And so what we always say is these lawyers are there to de-escalate and give just general guidance and helpful ears and voice in those moments of need. We had a mother who pressed the button when she got on. She said, hey, I'm just nervous right now, and I just want someone to be here with me. From that to giving tactical guidance around what you have to do on searches and everything beyond, they're there just to help you through that situation.
So are the attorneys ever talking directly with the officer pulling the car over? In other words, can the person just say, hey, talk to my attorney, instead of needing to interact with the officer?
It's actually, we work hand in hand with law enforcement to kind of coach them up on what these interactions look like. Because we say we're an app to bridge the gap. My brother graduated from a law enforcement program right here in Minnesota, and we want to ensure that they feel as safe as possible when they approach a vehicle as well, that they think it's going to be the safest interaction actually when they see a turn signal bumper sticker. And so what we tell them is just that, hey, this isn't a talk to my lawyer platform. Generally, 99+% of the interaction is between the driver and the attorney when the police officer isn't there. It's not a lean back and talk to the attorney kind of platform. In fact, I always say it's just like if my mom was to be pulled over and I was in the passenger seat, maybe she'd turn to me and say, what should I be doing? Should I pull over here? What should I do? It's never my mom's going to lean back and let me talk to the police officer.
Okay. So I'm getting pulled over and I initiate the turn signal call before the officer approaches the vehicle. Is that the ideal?
Yeah, that's best practice for sure. Obviously, based on jurisdiction, it depends on when you can touch your phone based on when you're moving and when you're in lanes, etc. So you can use voice activation. You can set that up on our platform, or you can just wait till you're on the side of the road to hit that button. And yeah, it's a nerve-wracking moment, but people generally forget that it's a few minutes before that officer leaves his car and comes to your window. And so that's a great time for the attorney to get on the line, understand what the driver is going through, maybe what their apprehensions are, and get a better feel for the situation. And all of the attorneys go through a third-party de-escalation training from an organization called Crisis Prevention Institute. And so even that colors the way the conversations go.
Now, how do you fund the platform? Are people paying a monthly subscription? Are they paying per call? How does that work?
Turn Signl is like Netflix. You pay one annual subscription, no matter how much you binge it, right? So if you are pulled over 100 times or never, it's going to be the same annual subscription of $60 a year. However, if you cannot afford that, if you are a low-income individual, we let you on completely free, and you get the exact same service that Bill Gates would get would he be on our platform. So those low-income individuals are subsidized by some of the corporate partners we have, everyone from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota to the Minnesota Vikings. So a lot of corporate sponsors helping with that work as well.
Okay, so I think we've done a pretty good job of really understanding what Turn Signl does and who it's for, which is, I guess, the mass population. Where do attorneys fit in? And when somebody calls Turn Signl, they're being connected with an attorney. Who is that attorney, and are they compensated? How does that work?
Yeah, so the attorneys on our platform are folks who really want to be there. We say they're there for three reasons. The first is altruistic reasons. They want to be a part of a solution that's helping people in their moment of need without having to dedicate their whole lives to that work, right? We can't all work at the Innocence Project. So that's one, people who are just altruistically want to be there. The second is people who want to build a brand around what they're doing as a law firm so that they can have the Turn Signl trusted attorney on their website and their email signatures. They can let people know that that's the type of attorney they are, the attorney that would be there for people in their moment of need. And the third one is business development, right? Whether it's the person that calls you or it's their significant other or their cousin that needs legal help in another situation, you are the point of record for that person. People who have an attorney on speed dial in their life in general might not have Turn Signl, but the people who have Turn Signl don't know an attorney, and they're actively looking for one, or so the people in their lives. So it's a great way to build business as well, and we've seen the fruits of that already on our platform. So that's who is doing it, and it's really low stakes, right? You talk to, I mean, I've done it. You get a marketing agency that comes in and tells you how you can better build your brand as a law firm. And it's hard. It's hard work. Writing a weekly blog post or starting a podcast is incredibly hard. What we ask you to do is to leave the app, download it on your phone. And when it rings, answer if you can. And if you can't, don't. You're not assigned. It's not scheduled. It's more of a gig economy feel in that way.
How do you ensure that the phone does get answered? And what if, I mean, well, let me take a step back. I'm assuming that if somebody is in New York and they're calling, that they're getting a New York-based attorney when they're answering, right? So if you have 100 attorneys in New York State and somebody calls, and at that particular moment, all 100 of them decide not to accept the call, what happens?
Yeah, I always say like turn signals like medicine. We can't promise 100% efficacy, but we're definitely here to make the situation better. And we staff the phones accordingly. And you're exactly correct. When you press the button, we identify geolocation and connect you with an attorney that practices law in that jurisdiction, right? And so we have a litany of ways to ensure that someone's going to answer from, of course, we have individuals that are on the platform for altruistic or other reasons. We have ones that are dedicated to be around 24/7 as well. And so we have a plethora of folks that are there to answer folks' call in their moment of need. And we're really proud of that. It took a really, really long time. That's why we weren't nationwide for the first 2 years, because we had to ensure that we had we always say we had to stand the cell phone towers up before we could turn on service in those areas.
Now, are you primarily getting, traffic, DUI and criminal attorneys that are participating in this, or is it really across the spectrum of practice areas that of attorneys that are raising their hand and saying, "Hey, I want to participate"?
I do a lot of podcasts, and lawyers always ask the best questions because they really get it. And that's another great one. Yeah, so again, you can press the button, two different buttons on the screen, one for I'm being pulled over, one for I've been in an accident. And so not only are we bifurcating by jurisdiction, but also by practice area. So when you press I've been in an accident, the people answering that call are people who routinely and commonly are practicing criminal law and have a deep experience in that. Of course, we do background checks, insurance checks, all of those things as well. So you are receiving someone who is, for rules of professional responsibility, I'm always nervous about saying that are experts in the field, but people who really know that field and have cut their teeth in that field. So that's exactly how we bifurcate our system so that you can reach those folks. Of course, in the future, we have aspirations of doing training where you can, if you're a corporate attorney working at 3M, you can be on our platform as well, but we haven't quite grown there yet.
Now, I forgot that you have the "Hey, I've been in an accident" feature, which is also huge. I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm also a paramedic. So we do get a number of medical calls for somebody who's quote unquote injured in an accident where they're probably not injured based on the way the vehicle looks and the the amount of force that impact had. So clearly there's like the ambulance chaser, mentality or whatever. What is the purpose of the attorney in that moment and the accident? Is it to help them with figuring out whether they have a legal case, or is it to help them really just make sure that they don't leave and get the license and registration of the other person and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'll try to be succinct to this answer, but I love the question. So my dad was in an accident in 2016, 17, shortly after I graduated law school. And he called me. He's like, Jazz, I'm, I don't know what he was at the time, 50 something. And he was like, I don't know what to do in this moment. Hey, well, in this jurisdiction, you're calling the police, you're taking pictures of the thing, you're doing all this. People are really rattled in that moment in a way, almost on a similar plane of when they're pulled over, the level of nerves and kind of fight or flight that's happening in that moment. And then we always talk about our users, the early adopters is the 3 Ps: parents worried about their children, partners worried about their significant other, and people of color. And I can't tell you the amount of suburban parents that live in affluent cities that are saying, hey, but my kid has been in an accident and they were too scared to call me. And because they didn't call me, they didn't get that person's insurance information. They didn't call the police to get a police report. They didn't do X, Y, and Z. And we're here to bridge that gap. And also here in Minnesota, we're what we call Minnesota nice. And people are so trepidatious about just saying things that they should say. Hey, I need your insurance information. Hey, I need to get a picture of your vehicle and mine. And it alleviates that burden because then you're saying the attorney that I'm talking to says I should just get your insurance information. And now you're not the bad guy anymore. And so we're here to provide that for those folks as well.
So when an attorney is offering to do this, right, and they're picking up this call and they're talking to that person, they're de-escalating the situation, do you have a mechanism behind the scenes to let the person know who the attorney was that they dealt with, because I mean, clearly they don't want to be like, oh, by the way, if you need anything, why don't you take down my name and number? And it's not exactly the right moment to be trying to solicit business, but at the same time, that could be why a lot of attorneys are offering to do this.
I feel like you were in the room when we started coming up with this idea of these questions. And that's exactly right. And that's why we set up our system in the way that it is. And again, for the rules of professional responsibility, we don't want people actively, let's say in a car accident situation, actively reaching out and pestering one of our drivers because they were there on scene. And maybe that driver doesn't want or need a further help. So when you hang up the call, we ask 3 questions on Turn Signl. 1, would you like to hang up right now? Yes. 2, would you like to talk to an attorney further about this interaction? Yes. 3, and the final question is, would you like to talk to this attorney again about the interaction? And should they say yes to that 3rd question, then we remove the firewall and send an email exchanging the 2 information. But up until that point, the attorney does not ever get contact information from that driver, nor should they seek it during that conversation.
Got it. It makes a lot of sense. And I really like the idea that you're asking them. Are you asking the attorney also? Do you want to be in touch with this other person? Because sometimes you can smell a crazy client a mile away, right?
You are speaking the absolute truth there, and we give the attorneys the autonomy. They aren't forced into, obviously we couldn't from a PR standpoint force them into representation either, but you aren't forced to follow up with that client, and if you don't, we again have a stable of other folks that we can reach out to and give that information, and then that driver can then be in contact with a different attorney should they want to.
Are you finding that the bulk of the attorneys that are signing up to be the call when somebody gets into an accident to be personal injury attorneys?
Yeah, but again, I can't let a corporate law attorney answer and try to help someone through a car accident situation because they might not know exactly what to do. What I will say is there's a lot of attorneys who do both. So there are people who have smaller practices that do everything from PI to criminal and beyond, and so those people can do both. But there's some who just do personal injury work.
What are you doing to get the word out in the legal community? I mean, I can, in this conversation, as we're talking, I can think of at least 10, 15 attorneys that I would hang up and after this interview and just text them and say, hey, you have to check out this thing.
Yeah, I mean, so the very first hire at Turn Signl, there's us 3 co-founders, and our very first hire was someone who was in small firm marketing at Thomson Reuters for a decade. He was our first hire, and we brought him over and we're like, hey, you know this landscape, you know the people, you make the calls. And it started with him just dialing, emailing, LinkedIn, messaging folks. Now it's developed a little more. I'm doing things like this to get the word out. He has a litany of other things and conferences and things we do. I'm speaking at CleoCon. I just spoke at the ABA Tech Show. We won Startup of the Year 2 years ago. So we're doing all of these things, but it's like, you know, attorneys know this community is so large, it can feel like you're trying to boil the ocean at times. But word of mouth has been incredibly helpful as well, because when someone else is on the platform and they say, hey, this is what I'm doing, it makes it a lot easier and for attorneys to reach out. And trust me, I've been an attorney practicing a law firm. I know how skeptical I am for marketing emails and calls and promises and cold emails. So it's hard, but those direct references or connections are really valuable to us.
Now you're in 47 states. What are the states that you're not in?
I think South Dakota, Delaware, and North Dakota are the 3 I believe that we're not in yet. Delaware we're struggling with a little bit, which is wild. I guess all the attorneys that practice there practice corporate law for all the Delaware corporations, maybe. But so those are the 3 states. But again, like we're adding 2 to 3 attorneys per day, it seems, at this point, and so we're always looking to add more and more. Because we offer Turn Signl as a benefit to corporations. I don't think I mentioned that. And so when we onboard an organization that has 10,000 employees, we need to, you know, it's like adding a whole bunch of kids to a school. We need to make sure we have more teachers there as well. So we're always adding more attorneys to more states. So the more the merrier.
Yeah, Delaware is a tiny state, and so but still you still need to make sure that call is going to be answered, which is, you know, that's part of the challenge. Is like, okay, there's very few attorneys to even pick from, but then we'll have less calls, but we still have a call that needs to be answered. I'm wondering if you might want to reach out to the Turn Signl attorneys that are in neighboring states, because often they'll have bar association rights with within the the neighboring state.
Yeah, we love a multi-state bar attorney. They're some of our favorites because if you're multi-state and you practice criminal and PI, it's like it's the jackpot. Those are the folks we love. So that's exactly right.
All right. I don't think there's anything that I didn't ask you about the platform. Is there anything that we should have covered that we didn't in this conversation?
No, I think that whether it's for altruistic reasons or others, whether you were personally touched by an accident that someone could have used more help in, or George Floyd, Philando Castile, or so many more, there's a great opportunity to be a part of something new and exciting here. And so if you're ever interested, please reach out to us. Just find us at turnsignl.com. There's an attorney kind of page there that you can click on for more information as well. And we'd love to have any and all of the listeners from your platform along with us on the Turn Signl ride.
Awesome. I love it. And Jazz, I always close out the interview with two questions. The first is, what's one parting piece of wisdom or advice that you'd like to leave with our listeners? And the second is, how can they find out more about you, take the next step with you? I'm sure it's pretty easy for the answer to the second, but share it with us again.
Yeah, parting wisdom. When I was in law school, my third 3.0 year, I took a class called ethical leadership. And in that class, we had to write a personal credo, something that could be read about us at the end of our life that we hope we lived up to. Mine said that I wanted to practice corporate law to learn how to be a good lawyer and to help pay off my student loans. And then I wanted to leave that practice and help the community that needed help most, especially my own Black community. And so I ended up doing it a little earlier than I thought I would, but I would just say you don't have to leave your corporate or your litigation practice to do that. There's a million ways to lend a hand and to chase the passions that you so much cared about when you were 23, 24, 27, when you were in law school. So make sure to keep that fire alive, and there's always ways to be a part of the good work that's being done. And the second one is like LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where I always am. It's where I live. So find me on LinkedIn, JazzHampton, Jazz Hampton.
And if an attorney wants to learn more about becoming a Turn Signl attorney, is there a place they go for that?
Yep. So just go to turnsignl.com, and then you'll see right at the top, we have a tab for attorneys, and Turn Signl is spelled TURNSIGNL. So it's spelled Turn Signl without an A. That's because there's a lack of access to justice. And until there's an access to justice for everybody, we won't have an A in our name.
Okay. Well, hopefully there'll be an A in your name really soon. Jazz, it's been an honor having you here. This is a great conversation, really cool product that you've created. And I'm excited to learn more about it, see it out in the wild. I haven't been looking for those stickers, but now that we talked about it, I'm sure I'll see it everywhere. And I'm also going to investigate getting it for myself and my loved ones, just to have. And it sounds like a no-brainer, right? Like, what's $60 a year? So I really like what you're doing, and you articulated very well the problem and how this solves it. And I think it's a great opportunity. Even forget altruistic. I mean, I think it's a great opportunity for our listeners who perhaps might be looking for another avenue of marketing. This is not going to make you rich. This is not going to blow up your business. But, if you can, take a few calls and get a few clients a year, that's, it's just one more place that you don't have to go trying to turn over stones and find them on your own. Folks, we are here every single Thursday with another amazing guest interview. We've been doing this for, over 4 years now. And we're over 400 episodes in, and really, really excited to bring amazing conversations just like this one to you. Make sure you hit the subscribe button in your podcast player so you get notified every time we release a new episode. It's every Thursday morning. Wake up to us. And we hope you enjoy your weekend, and we'll catch you next week on another amazing interview coming your way, the Profit with Law podcast. Take care.